Welcome back. And I have another dynamic career professional, fashionpreneur, as I like to call you, that I am going to be hosting a career talk with. I have the lovely Gwen Bates, who's a red carpet accessory designer and Fashion Week director for Fashion Week San Diego. Did I say that right? Did she? She's coming through in a moment.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can now. Yes. One of the words of COVID. Yes.
Hi.
Welcome. Hi, Gwen. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me. I'm so honored to be here, honestly.
Oh my
and just
goodness.
to share this platform with everybody that you've had. I'm honored.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm honored to have you. I'm honored to have all of you. I really am. And all of you have just been phenomenal. That giving back, you are a part of the solution. I've reached out to each of you, and each of you was so willing. When I first started this event, I was like, okay, I'll get one or two people, we'll live stream. And then as I mentioned, talking to Meredith, and I keep going. And this is what happened and keeping on going. So glad to have you. And I just want to mention, I said Gwen is a red carpet accessory. She has a red carpet accessory brand that has been worn at the Emmys, published in 40 plus publications to include the French runway. And then you are the Fashion Week director for Fashion Week San Diego.
Yeah, crazy, huh?
That's incredible. Yeah. And not only that, you don't just have a fashion week. Your fashion week is focused on giving back. Your fashion, if I look at this correctly, some of the initiatives have been family first scholarships. The SIC that's the suicide intervention. And then you give real women a glamorous experience in addition to that. That's incredible. Talk about, because we really want to go into the purpose of a fashion week. You've helped brands really break into fashion. Talk about the success that you've had helping brands break into, move their brand.
Yeah, definitely. So I would like to honestly start with, first, everything I do, there is a purpose. There's a greater purpose. So GFash actually has Studio 830, which it has several outreaches underneath that. And so we really do try and give and do our own outreach, anything that has anything to do with self-confidence and self-esteem building missions.
Awesome.
Fashion Week San Diego, we do a lot of charity as well, especially during COVID. I felt like that was a big part of everything. But what we really like to do is we want to see brands succeed. We don't want them to just come and show a collection, never sell it, put it away, and then do it again the next year and spend all that money in the investment, and never have like a ROI. So we work with them all year long. We make sure that we meet them where they're at, because there's different levels of designers that come to the platform. So there's some that are emerging and they're like, this is my first collection. I don't know what I'm doing. What do I do? And so, they're different than working with a more established brand who's like, I'm here, but I need more exposure this year. I need to be more branded. And then we have like some celebrity brands and brands that just want to showcase. And then they also add the notoriety to the fashion week as well. And how we work with them is throughout the year, we just meet them where they're at. So if someone is new to this, we will help them with their business plan. We will help them with their marketing plan, operational plan. And we also have events throughout the year. So we never stop. We are always going and going and going, throwing something new out there. And we try and get them more opportunities to get more exposure. We work with an incredible firm called Crow PR that's in New York and San Diego. So they work for our designers too. So we really surround them with a team of professionals to make sure that when they leave our platform, they have a better understanding of what it is to be a business instead of just someone who creates pretty things. And as a designer, I fell into that pitfall so much, especially when I started. I was just buying a lot of stuff because it was pretty and I like sparkly things. But it was going nowhere. Honestly, I was just wasting money. There was no direction at all. And, I didn't even have that plan. Even though I wrote a business plan, I didn't stick to it. So, we just make sure, since, you are on our platform, we do all we can do for you if you want it. Some people just choose to do it and they don't really care for anything else. But the brands that do reach out and they want a little bit more, we do have like a team of experts here. And I myself have been a micro mentor, which is a free mentoring site online. And so I work with brands personally on the side to help them with all those needs and kind of to diagnose what's going wrong with the brand so they can
Yeah.
get on track and start making some money.
This is good because I asked that question, one, because we're having career talks about the role, the responsibility, that job description. You gave us an incredible overview. And I also, oh Lord, somebody gonna hate me for this, but it's all right. I asked that question too because there are a lot of people getting taken in fashion weeks and fashion shows, and they're not, I don't know if they understand. Let me say it like this. I don't know if the people that are paying to be in these fashion shows understand what they should be getting. And I don't know if the fashion show producers understand what they should be producing with a fashion week for a brand.
I hear you.
That's why, I'll leave it at that. Everything you've said is incredible. Because this is very important. Fashion is a business. Yeah, so what you're doing is incredible. Thank you for doing that.
Oh, thank you.
And
I definitely hear you. And I just really quick, yeah, like as a designer, I've been around the world doing a lot of fashion weeks. And I also lived in Italy for 3 years. So I have like a vast knowledge of what you get at a fashion week and what you don't. So I definitely know where you're coming from on that. And that's why I'm seeking to change some things.
You are part of the solution. That's why you're here.
Well, thank you for having me to be a part of the solution.
Yes, this is what it's about. We're having the career talk, but I felt that it was important to bring that out for both really ends of the spectrum, for those who are considering being a designer, especially career changers who are making that change and they're seeking assistance to be in a show to show off their product, as well as the students, for both of them on both spectrums. I think it's just very important. So we talk about the job description. You've really given the job description to really help that brand. When you're producing a show, what are your days and hours like, year out and leading up to?
Wow, it's kind of hard to answer. So general hours would be my personal hours. I guess I can only speak for myself, and my work ethic would be 6:30 to 6 daily. And so I say 6:30 to 6 because when I wake up, obviously, there's a routine to de-stress, there is prayer, there is meditation, because as soon as you turn on your computer, there is just an overload of emails. I mean, right now, I think I'm at 28,000. So, and in between working daily and just daily operations, communicating to the team, because we're all remote, and we're all mothers. So we all have to have like some type of work-life balance. So, we're all just trying to fit it in however we can. And we realize that, there's just really no balance. It's more integration. So you just need to integrate your life into this and know when to cut it off. And for me, because my kids are older, I can cut it off at 6, whereas other parts of the teams, they cut it off a little bit early because they have younger kids. But a large part of the day is getting through a bulk of those emails or any fires that need to be put out early in the morning, and then starting on, relationship building, cold calling, getting our partners, getting the word out, a ton of marketing. I read a ton of contracts daily. So, learning the legalese. And then another portion of it is it's the inundation with more emails throughout the day. So there's always a constant influx of communication that is happening all the time. And, people don't see that when you think of a fashion week. You think of 1 to 7 nights of like incredible events and wonderful brands, but it's the operations, it's the daily, it's the legal. And because we're professional fashion week, we have a lot of systems in place. We have a lot of people on the team and on the staff as well. So it's always a constant, there's always something to do. Even when it's your day off, or even when you feel like you've completed everything, there's something else you could always be doing. You can always be building a relationship. You could be always be writing a proposal. You could be always looking for your next, client or designer, or just having the time to build out a creative vision, or looking in 2 years into the future of what we're going to do there. Where are we going to be? What does this look like? Because the planning, honestly, we're planning, and we have to plan for 2 years out, especially with COVID now being a part of that. I think it kind of messed up the algorithm of our schedules too, because we've just had to shift gears, and all the plans were, the plans were whatever. And you just have to be able to pivot on a dime, honestly.
Yeah. And no, with the COVID piece, that just threw everybody for a loop. Have you been able to, how are you approaching the Fashion Week production now?
Yeah, so we have never been virtual. And honestly, I feel like COVID was a way of ripping a Band-Aid off that should have been ripped off, honestly, way before. Because now we are virtual. We are a hybrid now. So this year we'll be moving into the hybrid space. But with COVID last year, we were one of the few fashion weeks globally to keep going forward and commencing through that time, because we did set up the whole professional production. And what we did is we were able to bring in just our essential audience. And so essentially that was just the designers plus a guest. And we were extremely strict with our COVID regulations and just being socially responsible, especially on camera and, in photos. So we were able to navigate that space. We did a pretty good job, because at the end of the year, we did get a business award for, moving forward and keeping that creativity. I know. I was just like, whoa, did I just get an award in my sleep? But,
awesome.
But, during that time, though, I mean, it was hard because fabric shops were closed. So it was, you have all the issues with designers not knowing if they're going to complete a collection. And, it's just kind of like it was a day by day thing. And now we know kind of what more to do. So we have more of a better understanding of COVID. And if something like this happens during your events or during this time, just this weird time in society, that we're able to bring it online and do it virtually, and we're able to do it socially responsibly as well. And if we had to cut the audience, we do. And so at this point, we're saying it's no longer an event. It is now a show. We don't compete with live events anymore. We're competing with just making it more televised. So it's more of an on-set thing now. So it's kind of fun. It's a fun space to be in. So it's more like when you're taping a show, it's quiet on set. So people aren't talking as much, and you don't see drinks, and people are not getting up. Once you're in your seat, you are stuck for the night. It's a new experience.
Yeah. Talk about the skills. Because I'm hearing those skills, those business skills, the communication, but talk about the skills that are required to produce a fashion show, to direct that show.
So I would say,
that week.
So I would say the top skill would be, honestly, being personable and liking people. I would say that's very important, because there's so many fashion weeks everywhere. I mean, some states have like 6. I think we have about 6 in our state alone. But, there's a difference in how you treat people and the people who are your clients, the designers. And do you really work for your brands or your sponsors? You have to be able to be a trustworthy person. You need to have those strong relationships. And if I heard it said, well, it was Amazon that said that anybody can do what they do, but they have good customer service. And so that's one thing that we really do focus on. If we say we care, we care. And we consider ourselves a fashion family. So that is honestly where a lot of how we operate extends from. So a lot of it starts with who you are as a person, having integrity, being a team player. Other skills would be, more soft skills would be being organized. Because like I said, with 28,000 emails, there's some important emails in there. So being organized to be able to flag them, categorize them, capturing contracts, just having your files set up, because sometimes you have to go back to these files, and if they're all just thrown into like documents or all over the place, it's going to take you like a lot of time to find something that you need. So being organized, and being organized with the event as well, and the human capital, knowing how to clearly communicate where they need to be, what they need to be doing, what to be looking out for. And now that we're in this new COVID fashion era, there's even more communication that needs to be done, because there's even more liabilities at this point. So I would say, yeah, it's the communication, it's the organization, and it's honestly, a lot of it's a self-starter mentality, and it's entrepreneurial. Because I'm more of entrepreneurial at heart. I've always been an entrepreneur since I was like a kid. So fashion came along like in 2015, and entrepreneurial, and they just kind of married each other. So I already had that foundation of, being a self-starter, and, setting goals, hitting those goals, figuring out how do you get to those goals, and the marketing and learning the branding. So I would say those are the most important skills, is being personable and being organized and just being someone of integrity.
How would you suggest someone go about developing those skills? What type of activities would you suggest they get involved? Podcasts listening to that they should listen to, books to read, organizations, what type things?
I would say the best way to get into it is to come out and intern or volunteer, because you're going to get some hands-on experience, and you're going to figure out really fast, if this for you or is it not. But if you're not ready to make that step, I would say, yeah, there's formal training. I mean, FIDM, they do marketing, fashion marketing, and, all that good stuff, because essentially that is what we do. We do fashion marketing. We're marketing for everybody who is our client, our brand, or a sponsor.
That's right.
Yes, that is a great course to take. But sometimes those type of courses are too pricey. But there's also, Google. A lot of people are teaching, just marketing online. But I have found that a lot of people do not put straight Fashion Week how-to online. I'm not sure why that is, but it's pretty hard to find any of that online. As well as being a designer, like what does it take to be a designer and Fashion Week or whatever. It's hard to find that stuff online. So I would say, honestly, get involved. A couple good books would be, there's one called Fashion Merchandising, and one is Producing a Fashion Show. It's an older book, but it has like the basics, a general overview of what you need to do. But there's nothing like actually being there on person in the midst of the chaos, or working with us throughout the year leading up to the chaos. That looks really beautiful on, the stage.
Yeah. Well, when someone approaches your organization or other organizations about internship or volunteering, what are some of the best practices that you recommend they do to make that approach? And what are some things that you recommend they should not do? It won't go over very well.
Gosh, you just ask those questions, don't you? Okay.
Because they need to know.
Okay, so what I would like, if someone wanted to approach about, hey, I want to, maybe even be a director or whatever, I would say you need to be humble. You need to come and honestly be open to receiving. Don't ever show up like you know everything and you're just ready to give us advice on how we do things. But, be open to, hey, this is going to be your first task. Let's see how you get through that. I would also say, we're very accessible. Send us an email. And that's the first step, honestly. Send us an email. Let us know your interest, and we'll get you set up with an interview. It's pretty simple. But I would say we've had a lot of, examples and issues in the past of people approaching the wrong way, that want to be involved and they want to do a takeover. And that doesn't go well, because, it's just, honestly, if you approach anyone with that attitude, the immediate thought process is they're not a trustworthy person. So, just approach people and be yourself. Don't try and act like you know everything, and don't be proud. Just Let us know what you want to do and where you are starting from, and just be honest and open, because we'll meet you where you're at. And wherever you want to work in the company, we'll put you there. It's either the front of the house or the back of the house or the day-to-day operations. And we just need to know that you're trustworthy and, you've approached us in a professional manner as well.
So, and one question that I ask everyone, I do not ask individuals what they make. That is private. What I do ask, because people want to know, is, in your situation, there's a couple of answers because you have different categories of people that you're working with. So when you're thinking about fashion show production, what can someone starting out or trying to make a career change expect to make as a producer of a fashion show, or even in those different roles in that fashion show, that fashion week?
Yeah, so that's a good question, because there is opportunity. A lot of people say there's no money in events. And now that there's COVID, they're like, you're crazy to still do events. So I would say it really depends on your entrepreneurial spirit. So I think if you're going to make your first 100,000, it's going to be because you did 80% of the work. You're putting it in like crazy. And, if you're, so the potential, honestly, the standard is anywhere from 100,000 to 3,000. I'm sorry, 300,000 just in our area, because, it's a little bit different. So it's different for everyone, because I know New York makes like, they're in the millions, right? And Gucci, when they do their fashion week, that show costs 2.4 million to produce. So who knows how much they're making at the end of the day. But with smaller scale stimulus fashion weeks, I would say anywhere from 100,000 to maybe 269. And that would be on a good year where you're really putting in the work, doing 80% of like the grind, and you know what's going on. That means there's good marketing. That means everything is lined up. You have good designers, and people want what you have, and so you're able to sell that amount of tickets. A lot of the budget for a fashion week is pretty hefty as well. So sometimes those budgets can actually be, well, a smaller fashion week, the budget is probably roughly around 100,000. So a lot of event organizers, they actually bank on the ticket sales as well, and the viewers. And so, you got to just really put in the work in order to see. It's kind of like with anything. If you're doing multi-level marketing and you're not a good marketer or salesperson, you're probably not going to see as much as somebody who's been doing a lot more work and consistency every single day, to get the results that they're getting. So it's honestly, to see the numbers you want, it's a consistency game. It's not, I did one call here, one call there, but it's almost like 15 calls a day, every single day, close a sale like every 2 weeks. And then you need to just,
when you're looking at those ranges, what type of timeline are you talking before you hit that type of income? Are you talking, I don't think you're talking year one. You're talking 5 years, 10 years?
It's possible in year one. It's possible if you are someone who is just eager and hungry for, certain things to succeed. It's possible, but realistically, it probably will not be your first year. It'll probably be maybe year 3 where you're netting 100,000. And then it goes up from there, because the secret sauce and how you even got to 100,000 and what it takes. So now you can work smarter and not harder, and get certain people in place to be able to help you get even, more cash flow without doing so much of the work. And you can start delegating and doing other things, and just honestly working on relationships. I think that's actually key. It's the relationships, honestly, and the relationship building is where a lot of the cash flow will come from. And that's why I feel like one of the most important things next to branding, having your branding spot on. But yeah, I would say probably 3 years. In the first year, if you're trying to run a professionally organized fashion week, not just a pop-up fashion week, then I would say you may just end up balancing out, and what you put in, it just may be equal. You may be breaking even at that point.
Yeah. Speaking of that time frame, what are some smart, some specific, measurable, achievable, and realistic and timely goals that someone should put in place if they want to produce a fashion week? And what type of timeline should they put on that?
So you would need to start out with, are you going to jump into someone else's? So, okay, so there's two ways to answer that. So if you want to make sure you do things and you do them right, the best way is to jump into someone else's fashion event and go along with them for the year. You know what I mean? Like just go for the ride for the year and figure out things and see how they work. But if you're going to step out on your own and do it, I would say know what season you want to show in. So if you're going to be showing in the fall or summer, then you work backwards from there and start planning a year out. Also, there's also there's legal, as far as your legal entity. So those things take time too. Like you need to get your business name, you need to apply for possibly a wholesaler permit. And you also need to know, what type of entity do you want to be? I prefer an S corp, just for the whole liability issue and the taxes. But those are also things that play into the whole starting this and just knowing where you really start, because it's going to be a year of planning. So if you know the date that you want to show your event, then you just work backwards from that date and start planning in that order.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So individuals who want to have a career in fashion, whether they're a student, whether they're a career changer, and they think this is the route that they want to take. If they don't have the support of family and friends, what tips do you offer them? Or what thoughts?
Yeah, if you don't have the support of family or friends, that can be hard. But there's also organizations out there who do it for free. Like I mentioned earlier, there's Micro Mentor. So micromentor.org, they actually have people up there with specialized skills that range from fashion to retail, product development. And so they can help you more on a one-on-one basis with whatever you're trying to do. There's also SCORE, the SBDC, and they also have mentors who are retirees that just want to help people, build their businesses while it keeps them sharp as well. So there's also so many type of resources. I mean, and if you have the money to spend, you can get a coach. I mean, a coach would be awesome because they're in your corner, they're offering you support, and and they also motivate you to keep going as well. Without family and friends, I mean, I think a lot of us kind of hit that road, like on entrepreneurship, because sometimes they just don't understand what we are doing and why we're working so long and so hard. but but it's okay to reach out to people outside the family. I mean, I've had a mentor over at the SBDC, which is a great organization, and they even teach you things like government contracting, so you can get some of your whatever you're doing. I mean, the government buys everything. So, I mean, I'm telling you, it's a world of knowledge from all these places. And those resources are out there and they're online, they're accessible, and they're remote. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to rely on just that friends and family support. And they actually help you find capital and funding as well.
This is good. We're going to take some questions in a few minutes. So if anybody has questions, yes, she's asking about where does she apply, where does she get started. So if you go to the Career Talks segment on this platform, and if you look up Gwen's profile, if you click there, the information is there about Fashion Week San Diego that you can access. If you have any other questions, put those questions in too. What are some of the things, and clearly you've talked about those, like organizational skills, but let's go into like that business piece, because you're running a business. What are some of those things that people need to know? You talked about the legalese, so it sounds like they need to have some legal background. The organization, definitely you're talking about the 28,000, what did you say, 28,000 emails? Yeah, you definitely got to have some organization going on. But what type of, being independent, what type of knowledge do you need to have, and how can you go about getting it?
Yeah, so I would say business-wise, figure out what you want to do. The smartest move, honestly, would be to look around your area. Is there anybody else doing a fashion event? That's honestly number one. You don't want to, step on someone else's territory, because that could be bad for business. And that could be bad for your reputation as well. So first, find out if there's somebody else doing any fashion events around you. And if they are, make sure that you do something that's different. Don't do the same thing that they are doing. That's like number one. And then two, from there, then you move into the business piece. So how are you going to set up your entity? Do you want to be a sole prop? Do you want to be an LLC? LLCs are cheaper than an S corp, but it's still considered personal, but you're not liable. So if something were to happen, you're not liable for it, but it's still on your personal taxes. That's why I say S corp is the best. After you get that piece together, then you just make sure that, you apply for everything else that you need to, the business license, the fictitious business name, or the DBA, and make sure that everything is correctly set up business-wise, because being a professional fashion week without professional records, that's just not good, because sometimes these organizations grow so big that the liabilities are so large that you need to have an attorney on hand, and you need to have your business pieces set up successfully just so that you can reference them, and so that you do have this professional persona, and you really are what you're talking about. After that, you would need to, I would say, I know they say business plans are dead, but I'm a business plan person, because it's an evergreen document. You just go back to it, and just kind of like doctoring up every single year. You just need to go back and refresh it every single year. And sometimes it just keeps you, reminded of what my vision was. Why did I even start this in the first place? And, you can just kind of fine tune it every single year. But I think the best and the most important parts of that business plan is your financial plan and your operational plan. So once you know what type of expenses you will need, those expenses can be your assistant director. That's a whole job. So that's a line item that you need to write in. Other business expenses would be, how much is it to keep your attorney? You're going to need an accountant, and it would be smart to have a bookkeeper as well. Are you going to have a PR firm, or are you going to have an intern in-house who does PR? So knowing your expenses, because this type of organization can get very costly and really quick. And if you're not doing the things you need to do business-wise, it's not going to sustain. It'll probably fall apart, because you're just all over the place, and there's no organization, and there's no real business aspect to it. It's just more, everybody get together and let's, do this fashion show and whatever. But after you have all that, the other important piece would be your marketing plan. And what I suggest is, actually, I know it's so hard to say that these days, because of COVID showed us that we could plan all we want, but things change. But I would say, have a marketing plan and do it for the year. And now that we know that virtual is a part of fashion forever, make sure that you include that into your marketing plan. So that would be, what are you blocking out for your social boost or whatever on social media? How much are you going to pay for promotions? Your website, we were facing a time where we didn't really have to care about the website and that image, because we didn't need it. I mean, we had events around town where we had 20,000 people show up because nobody was going to the website. So now that people are on the website, now there's another, cost that you need to be aware of, updating the website, making sure that it's responsive. Can you take orders on your website? Just testing it out. Do people have issues when they go to your website? How long is the average person staying on your website? So these things all cost money. So I would say, make sure you have a marketing plan, and then the operational plan as well too. It will show you your cash flow, and know how to read your financial sheets. Mm-hmm. And after that, then you start really planning your year. So all those things really need to be done essentially before you start planning your year. So that's just the fun part. And then you start, planning, well, I want to have a show on this date. So what do I need to do now? Because there's so much that happens within the year. You need your MUAs. You need your
when you say MUAs, you're saying makeup artists. So people know.
That's right. I forgot. Yeah. So you need your makeup artists, and you need your hair teams. You need your leads. You need your photographers, and your photographers have their own teams. You need your press team. You also need your models, your interns, your core team. So all these things play a big factor. And throughout the year, you're going to have to meet with them all. You're going to have to set up dates for your casting calls. Do you have editorial shoots that you're doing? Editorial shoots are just, showing up, taking a really fancy, vibrant photo of a designer and maybe like a lifestyle shot. But do you have all this together? And are these things that you're even going to be doing in your fashion week? Because you don't have to do any of it. I mean, you can honestly plan for 1 month to do your hair and makeup call, your model call, your intern call, and just get it all out the way in 1 month and just have a show. But if that's not the type of fashion week you want to be, and you want to be more hands-on, things all year long, then it requires more planning than just that one initial month of meetings back to back to back. But pretty much it all works hand in hand leading up to the show. And just knowing those dates are pivotal because there's a lot of coordination between those dates, between people and their jobs. A lot of models are under 18. So, now they're school and now they cannot be, at the location without a legal authoritative figure. So it's just a lot of it is logistics and a lot of it is communication and getting people together at the same time so that you're not working super, super hard or longer trying to meet with people at individual times. But that would pretty much be the bulk of it as far as getting started business wise before you start the planning and knowing what you're going to plan and knowing how much you're going to spend, because that's going to help you know how much you need to raise and sponsorship fees. It'll also help you set your designer entry fee, because every fashion week has a designer entry fee. Some fashion week decide to charge they charge their designer a fee, but then they also have their designers pay their models a different fee. So, there may be some other fees hidden in there, whereas we do one fee and you get everything. So, we really try and give as much as we can for our entry fee. And we often always need a sponsor to cover the rest that wasn't covered by that entry fee, which is like PR, it is marketing, it is, the operational hours for each individual brand and the opportunities that we do get, because sometimes we do get opportunities on Fox 5 or CBS. And if you know anything about that, just from the designer world, sometimes it is $1,400 just to do a 5-minute style section on Fox 5 News. So we try and navigate, these opportunities for the designers all in their fee.
That's incredible. That is incredible.
It's pretty expensive. And so we try and have like those high level professional opportunities available for our designers in one fee. And it helps with budgeting too. Yeah. So I would just say you need to know the finances. That's probably one of the most important things. Know your numbers.
One question. Is the trend for show leading towards paid events rather than the invite-only trade shows?
Can you repeat that?
She's asking if the fashion weeks or the fashion shows are leading towards paid events rather than the invite-only trade shows.
Well, that's hard to say because every fashion week is different. But what we do is, we're obviously, with COVID, our ticket prices are not the same anymore if you're watching virtually. And, we had to take a pulse in the community and bring those prices down for now. But we do charge for the show and it is open to the public, but also you are invited to the trunk show. So we have both and we do it back to back. So that again would be up to the director and their decision making if they want to do that type of invite only or open it up to a vast public viewing and ticket the event. We ticket our events because that's just kind of, we like to get obviously the return to put back into the organization and the event. And also if we have additional funds, we want to give our designers like a cash prize, especially our top designer. Right. So that's a personal preference, honestly.
How many designers do you want in a show?
So this year, honestly, we usually take 30 designers. We don't take a lot of designers because we like to select designers, and we also kind of vet them by personality as well. Because if you're working with certain people that may, just be, I don't know how to say this nicely, but, maybe, a little bit of a trouble or troublemaker, that's just not good for business. And it takes away a lot of your time. And then there's just more stress. And then you just have to make sure things are going right. And there's somebody always with that person to make sure that they're happy. So we do vet and we make sure we take at least 30 designers on a regular year. But because we've been virtual, we've done 9 designers. So this year we have 9 designers, but that's strategic because we are a bi-coastal event with New York now at the Sotheby's International Auction House.
Nice.
So I know. So that's the only reason why we have 9 this year is because we're contracted for 9 art pieces in New York this year. And so we have a signature event that we do yearly, and we're looking to keep this relationship going with Sotheby's International. But on a traditional year, we'd take about 30. We'd take about 30, and 30 designers would equal 2 nights of shows, plus a trunk show. So that's a total of 3, and possibly a reception the night before. So 4 nights. But there was one time we did way more, and I mean that's a lot of stress. It's a lot of work too, because then now you have like 7 nights. And you need a bigger team. And that's something you really have to think about. Do you want the 7 nights? Because you're going to need a whole lot more than 1 assistant director, 1 consultant. You're going to need a bigger team. And you're going to need a lot of interns. And you're going to have to make sure that they have the personality when you're not looking, because you don't have time to train them.
Yeah. And I love that you said art pieces, because we classify fashion as an art as well. So I love that you said that. Talk about the tips of building your team. I'm sure it took you a while to build a great team. What tips do you offer for building a team for your production?
Yeah, so I'll talk about this from both G Fashion and Fashion Week San Diego. Building a team.
Tell everybody what G Fashion is.
Oh, I'm sorry. G Fashion is the accessory company. And the acronym stand for God First, Always Stay Humble. So just forming that team, it was a lot of just using your gut. Honestly, I feel like the best teams are people you trust. People you trust with your kids, people you just trust when you're not around, people who don't have that malicious motivation to take your system and package it up and do it somewhere else. So I would say look for people who have integrity. And, that's why I go back to trust is so important, and integrity, especially when you learn to read people. Is this like, who are they? Who are they outside of work? What things are they into? So I look for the whole person, and people say I'm kind. So so I look for like that little element of kindness, I guess, but and I do like people. I'm not going to say everybody has to be the same, because it takes so many different personalities to make this work. So it can't just be, someone who's kind. It has to be, you need enforcers. And sometimes like I have to be the enforcer. You also need people who are, flamboyant in their personalities, and you need the quiet, you need the quiet logistical person that is a number cruncher. So I would just say, look for all the areas in your business that you need someone working in, that maybe you need to delegate that work to. Because as a director, you do not have time to do everything, or you'd probably never sleep, and things would just fall apart, and it'd all be on you, and there's nobody who can catch the ball and run with it. So I would say look for partners who you can delegate to, who have those skills and the personality and the character that you need to represent your business, because you wouldn't want someone representing your business that doesn't match the integrity of your business, because that can taint your brand and the customer experience as well.
Question came through, but I think you mentioned this. On average, how many shows do you produce each fashion week?
Okay, so we are a fashion year. So we just don't do the week. So I would say, if I'm counting right, we do about 4 restaurant series. We do 3 virtual events, pre-events. So that's 7. The main runway would make 8, the trunk show 9. And then we do like a little reception, and then we do the spring showcase. So we're looking at about probably 10 to 15 a year. So this year it will probably roughly be around 14 events with the New York piece included.
Wow, that's a huge difference.
It is a difference. We're just happy that things are like opening up and we can do like some hybrid stuff. So
yeah. Well, Gwen, this has been so informative, and that's what these career talks about, so people can really get an idea of what is involved, what is required, some of the benefits and the rewards, but the whole nine, so they can really think about if they want to pursue this as a career and how to develop for it. Someone who is thinking about making this a career option, what is, after this career talk, what are some of the next steps that you say they should take? And when she answers this question, please look at that template in the playbook and use that to write notes if this is what you're considering. So yes, what are some of the next steps they need to take, those actionable steps towards being a fashion show director, producer?
sure, I'd say if it's in your heart and this is what you want to do and you have that perseverance, I would say go for it. I mean, entrepreneurs honestly take risks. And if a risk scares you, then maybe don't think about doing that. Because honestly, what we do is we fail a lot until we succeed. So I would say just go into it with that perspective. The next step would be, like I mentioned before, start thinking about your business name. Look around you. What is happening in your area? What area are you in? Do they have fashion events? Start from that starting point and figure out what is going to be your USP, which is your unique selling proposition for your fashion event.
Mm-hmm.
And then really that's going to take you some time. Those don't just come to you overnight. Sometimes they do. But, just really figure out what is going to be unique about you, your location, and how often do you want to run this show? Is it a fashion week or is it a fashion event? Because those are good too. Like the fashion galas, those are beautiful. And I know that they make money too, but those are more nonprofit. Figure out, do you want to be a nonprofit? And do you want to be a for-profit? Because for-profit, it's hard to get money, but because, we're not nonprofit. So I guess they think we're just like rolling in the dough or something if they give it to us. But, it takes a lot of work to build relationships to get money for profits in fashion. So I would just take those next steps, like seriously look around you and see what is going on in your neighborhood. And is this something you really want to do? Because it's not an easy job. And, when I stepped into directorship, everyone kept saying, oh, she jumped into the deep end. And this was like before COVID. So, and I was just like, what are you talking about? Like, I love fashion. Like, I've been in this world. But yeah, it's definitely the undertaking. So you're going to have like some resilience, some grit. Don't be offended. So the next steps would be just to evaluate yourself and your capabilities. Is this something you are ready for, just being in this space? Because to run it professionally, you're going to need the funding. And that's just, it's the bottom line.
Well said. I want to share with you, I want to remind people, there is talking about this and some of the things that Gwen has shared. The University of Fashion has partnered with us for this event to offer 55 digital scholarships. And what that entails is the University of Fashion, yes, thank you. The University of Fashion has an on-demand service where you can actually go in and learn from professionals, instructors, people in the industry about fashion, different aspects in the fashion field. So I want to make sure everybody knows that on the blackfashioncareerday.org site, you can apply. The requirements and the information is there if you click that link. Also in the Black Fashion World Foundation virtual booth, you can go there and there's a link that can direct you to it as well. So I want to mention that. I want to remind you about the replay classes. Clearly, when I was trying to do it quickly, I wasn't doing it right, which doesn't surprise me, moving between segments. I will get it updated before the end of this evening. It will be there until April 27th. The thing is, you get that full 30 days of watching the replay passes until April 27th. I I do want to thank one of my board members, the person who was having concerns about buying a pass. One of my board members, Janice, is sponsoring that person. So I've already contacted that person, and that person did not know until I said this just now, that your replay pass is being sponsored. So thank you, Janice, for doing that. With that said, in closing out, Gwen, this has been incredible. Thank you for the information. What food for thought words do you have in closing out for people considering a career as a Fashion Week director?
I would say go with your gut. If this is for you, go with it. Things will work itself out. Just be strong in who you are and be resilient, because anything worth doing is not going to be easy. I think a lot of it is uphill. Many people just see the victory of the actual show, but that's only 10% of the glory of this thing. 90% is all the back end work. And if you like to work, I say just go for it. Don't be scared. But if it's in your heart to do it, do it. I mean, you'll never know until you try. And it's not going to be perfect.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Gwen. Sending you a hug. I tell everybody, sending you a COVID hug. Much love.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So everybody, we will see you back at 6:45 to talk with fashion scholar Dr. Tamika N. Ellington. You don't want to miss that segment either. Talk to you soon. truly